The crib was gone. The exact crib I had chosen months earlier, painted soft ivory with my swollen hands. I stood at the nursery doorway, holding our newborn in her car seat, still buckled, still dreaming. But the room was bare, no mobile, no changing table, no lullaby playing from the monitor. Just silence. And in the distance, I heard a faint clicking. Heels. High ones. I followed the sound in disbelief, heart racing, milk leaking, stitches still fresh. And then I opened our bedroom closet. There, lined in a row beside his suits and belts, were 4 pairs of pink heels. Not dusty. Not hidden. New. One pair had a receipt still tucked inside. I stood there, paralyzed, while my daughter slept in the hallway. The nursery was gone. But the closet was full. There was no note. No message. Just perfume lingering in the air, sweet, unfamiliar, unapologetic. The bed was made. The sheets weren't ours. The scent of wine floated from a glass on the nightstand. One lipstick mark. The same shade as the heels. And my heart began to understand what my mind still refused. I walked back to the living room, numb. Placed the car seat gently on the couch. My hands shook, not from exhaustion, but from erasure. I had been gone for 19 days. Doctor's orders. High-risk pregnancy. I stayed with my mother to protect our daughter. And in my absence, he replaced. Our life, the living room had changed too. The framed photo of our wedding was gone. In its place, abstract art in gold and pink. The throw pillows were different. Even the rug had been changed. The home I had left was remodeled into someone else's. I was the intruder now that I checked the kitchen. Wine glasses in the drying rack. An opened bottle on the counter, half full, lipstick on the rim. A single dinner plate in the sink. No sign of a second fork. He had been entertaining, but not feeding a family. Not preparing for his wife's return. I texted him once, "Where's the crib?" No reply. I waited. Sat on the floor, watching our daughter breathe, her chest rising like a reminder. The silence from him was louder than any confession. And then I heard it, a message tone. But not from my phone. His iPad was still in the kitchen drawer. I unlocked it with the same password he never bothered to change. There it was, a text from someone named B. It read, "She left yet? The heels are still in the closet." Face blowing a kiss. I felt my stomach drop. Not from pain. From recognition. I didn't cry. I stood. Picked up my daughter. Laid her gently in the middle of our bed, what used to be ours. Then I grabbed a blanket from the couch and wrapped her. Because there was no crib. Just questions. I paced the house until sunset, refusing to sit. Every room told a different story. Every drawer betrayed me. There was no trace of me left. Even the tea I used to drink was gone. Replaced by protein powders and hairbrushes that weren't mine. Even the silence was curated. By the time night fell, I knew. Not just that he cheated. But that he had prepared for me to find out. The heels were not hidden. They were displayed. Like trophies. Like a message. I fed my daughter in the chair I used to love. It creaked differently now. Even comfort had changed its tone. I stared at the wall where the family portrait once hung. I could still see the outline from the sun. My smile. His arms. Gone like dust. When the front door finally opened at 11:23 p.m., I didn't speak. He walked in like nothing happened. Saw me sitting there. Paused. His eyes didn't show panic. Just calculation. He whispered, "You're back early." I said nothing. He stepped toward us. Looked at the baby. Then at the room behind me, the heels still visible. He didn't explain. Didn't apologize. Just exhaled and said, "It's complicated." I looked at him like a stranger. Because that's what he had become, and as he stood in the doorway, fumbling for words, I realized, he didn't expect me to leave. He expected me to collapse. But I wouldn't give him that. Not in front of our daughter. Not in my own erasure. We met at a hardware store. I was buying paint for my classroom, he was comparing lawn tools. He made a joke about the chaos of color samples. I laughed, even though it wasn't that funny. But his voice had a calmness I hadn't known in a long time. He asked if I needed help lifting the cans into my car. I let him. That's how it started. Jared was quiet, grounded, reliable. The kind of man who always showed up, even if he never said much. He listened more than he spoke. I mistook his silence for emotional depth. He loved nature, simplicity, home-cooked meals. He called me sunlight, said I made everything feel warmer. I believed him, maybe because I needed to. We got married 2 years later. A small backyard wedding, string lights, lemonade in mason jars. My students made handmade decorations. He cried during his vows. I did too. He said, "This is it for me. Your home." I held on to those words like gospel. The first few years were sweet in their slowness. We spent weekends building things, planters, benches, dreams. I taught, he worked on landscaping contracts. At night, we'd sit on the porch with tea, watching the sky fade. We didn't talk about big things. But I thought we were building something solid. I mistook routine for stability. We tried for a baby in our 6th year. The losses came early, too, both under 10 weeks. I remember how he held me, wrapped around me like silence. He didn't cry. Just kissed my temple and said, "We'll try again when you're ready." That was the first time I saw his distance begin. Kind. Supportive. But unreachable. As if grief made him mute. When I finally got pregnant again, everything changed. The excitement was there, but measured. He became obsessed with logistics, crib models, safety reports, baby monitors. He made spreadsheets. Researched brands. But never touched my belly unless I asked. Never spoke to the baby through my skin. Said he didn't want to get too hopeful too fast. The complications started in my 7th month. Swelling, blood, pressure, early contractions. The doctor ordered bed rest. Jared said he'd take care of everything. He kissed my forehead and whispered, "I've got you." He packed a bag and drove me to my mother's. I thought it was love. Now I know it was an exit. At her house, I waited for his calls. He texted updates, photos of the nursery, a stuffed giraffe on the crib. He said, "Almost ready for her." I believed him. I even thanked him. I didn't know he was preparing a different kind of space. One I wasn't part of. When I went into labor early, he didn't answer his phone. Said later he was out of signal at a client's site. He arrived 3 hours after she was born. Held her like she was a stranger's child. Smiled for the nurse's photo. Then left the room to take a call. I thought he was overwhelmed. Now I know he was gone. He stayed one night in the hospital. Left early the next morning with an excuse about preparing the house. I kissed his cheek and said, "Can't wait to come home." He nodded. But didn't answer. That nod was the last real moment we had. The last thing I mistook for connection. He sent one photo of the nursery while I was still recovering. The crib was there. The giraffe. The wallpaper I had chosen. He said, "Almost ready." He lied. That photo was a mirage. By the time I returned, it was all gone. Looking back, I remember the subtle exits. The dinners eaten in silence. The way he stopped asking how I was sleeping. The nights he stayed in his workshop longer and longer. He wasn't cold. Just unavailable. Like a man waiting for a different life to begin. He never raised his voice. Never argued. He disappeared in quiet decisions. Missed appointments. Delayed texts. Smiles that didn't meet his eyes. I filled in the blanks with faith. And he used that faith to disappear cleanly. The nursery was our shared project. But he built it alone. And then took it apart alone. I don't know what he did with the crib. Or the giraffe. But I do know he left nothing for me. Except a closet full of pink heels. The first time he came home smelling like perfume, I didn't ask. It was faint, vanilla, sharp, not mine. He said he had been at a hardware store. I laughed and kissed his cheek. But that scent stayed with me all night, clinging to my skin. Like doubt. I washed the sheets anyway. He started coming to bed later, saying he needed space to decompress. His phone always face down, his notifications on silent. When I joked about it, he said, "You're being dramatic." I wasn't. I was curious. But curiosity became a sin in our house. I stopped asking. He stopped pretending. One night, I saw a long blonde hair on his coat. Mine was always tied up, too tired, too heavy with pregnancy. I plucked it off slowly. He watched me and said, "Don't start." But I hadn't said a word. He was already defending himself from a truth I hadn't spoken. That was the real answer. He used to cook on Sundays. But after I got pregnant, the kitchen became mine again. He stopped making tea. Stopped asking how I was feeling. He started talking about the gym more. Said, "Gotta stay in shape to keep up with fatherhood." But he didn't go with me to a single prenatal appointment. I once found a receipt in his coat pocket, lingerie, size small, candy. Pink. I wear medium. When I held it up, he laughed and said, "Must have been a mistake." But he folded it neatly and put it away. Mistakes don't get receipts. Gifts do. He said he was helping a friend move on a Saturday. I asked who. He paused. "You don't know her." Her. Not them. Not even a name. I nodded and let him go. During the last trimester, he stopped kissing my belly. Said he didn't want to jinx anything. But I could feel the distance every time I reached for him. He flinched from closeness like it might accuse him. My body became unfamiliar to him. Not because of pregnancy, but because it reminded him I was still here. He joined a new gym, farther from home. Started coming back later, smelling like cologne I hadn't bought. Said they had better equipment. But his shirts came back. Washed in a scent I didn't use. I asked once. He smiled and said, I like smelling different now. He already did. I once opened his glove box and found lip gloss. Brand new. Shiny. Not mine. He said it belonged to a client's daughter. Left behind after a landscaping meeting. I nodded. But I kept it. It's still in my drawer. Labeled, Proof 1. Our text changed tone. He used to say love you. Then it became just, K. Then days without replies. When I asked, he said, you need too much. I didn't need too much. I just needed a husband. I asked if we could go on one last dinner before the baby came. He said, let's wait until after. Too much going on. I made the reservation anyway. He canceled that morning. Said a client had an emergency. But I saw his gym bag in the car. Still warm from the drive. He didn't come to the baby shower. Said it was too many women, too much noise. Sent flowers in his place. Roses. Generic. With a typo in my name. I smiled for photos and said, he's working hard for us. But I knew then, he was working hard for something else. The nursery took shape without me. He sent photos, walls painted, bookshelves done. But I noticed small things missing. The rocking chair I asked for. The curtains I picked. All replaced with sleek, gray pieces I never chose. He was designing a room for a child, not a mother. He stopped saying we. Started saying, you'll need this. You'll figure it out. I asked, aren't we doing this together? He blinked and said, of course. But his eyes darted away. Like he'd already made a decision. Like he was waiting for a moment to leave. The last week before labor, I said, I'm scared. He replied, you'll be fine. You're strong. He didn't touch my hand. Didn't stay the night. Said the couch hurt his back. I lay in bed with our daughter inside me, and a man already halfway out the door. The moment I stepped into the house, I knew I had returned to something that no longer included me. The crib I chose with care, gone. The tiny onesies folded by hand, gone. The mobile I cried over when it played its first lullaby, gone. In their place, a faint smell of perfume I didn't wear. And silence. Heavy, intentional silence. I stood in the hallway holding my daughter, still strapped into the car seat, her eyes fluttering under soft lashes. She didn't know that her welcome home had been erased. That the father who built her nursery had also dismantled it, piece by piece, while I was healing elsewhere. She deserved a beginning. He gave her an exit. I entered our bedroom and paused at the closet. At first, I thought I had walked into the wrong house. For pairs of heels, pink, glossy, pristine, arranged like a display. Like they were meant to be seen. Like someone had moved in. While I was still bleeding. On the nightstand, a wine glass. Lipstick on the rim, bold and loud. I don't wear that color. It was unapologetically feminine, shamelessly placed. She wasn't hiding. She was invited. And I was the one trespassing. The sheets were new. Sleek gray. Not the cotton ones I had chosen during my second trimester. Our bed no longer smelled like lavender. It smelled like erasure. And performance. And a woman who wasn't me. I sat on the edge and didn't sink. I texted him, asking about the crib. Nothing. Not even a lie. I waited, phone in hand, as the minutes stretched like scars. My daughter stirred. I rocked her gently, trying to calm her with a voice I could barely find. Because what do you sing when everything's been stolen? I found his iPad still logged in. Opened out of habit, not suspicion. And there it was. A message from B. Just 4 words, heels still in closet, face blowing a kiss. I stared until the screen dimmed. Then reopened it. I needed to be sure. He wasn't just cheating. He was preparing. He was living in it. Not a secret. Not a mistake. A redesign. And I was no longer part of the blueprint. Just a chapter. He folded closed. He came home late, keys jingling like he still had the right. Saw me in the living room. Paused. Assessed. Not guilt. Just calculation. His first words, you're back early. Like I had ruined a schedule. I asked nothing. I didn't scream. I let the silence stretch between us, until he filled it with, it's complicated. I laughed, dry, brief, tired. Is she still here? I asked. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. He moved toward the bedroom. Stopped at the sight of the heels still lined up. I didn't move. He said, I'll get them out. I said, no need. Because they were never meant to be hidden. They were part of the show. I took our daughter into my arms and walked past him. She blinked, then drifted again. Too small to understand. Too perfect to deserve this entrance. He said, Naomi, wait. I didn't. Because he didn't. That night, I fed her on the couch. Watched the moonlight cross a different ceiling. This house wasn't mine anymore. I was a guest. In my own story. And he was just a shadow wearing my husband's name. I didn't cry. I planned. I slept with the car keys under my pillow. The diaper bag repacked by the door. Because love shouldn't need proof. But betrayal always leaves it. And I had seen. Enough. Enough lipstick. Enough silence. By morning, he was gone again. No note. No conversation. Just empty rooms and heels in the closet. But I left them there. Like markers. Like warnings. Because next time I'd return, it wouldn't be to beg. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the heels or shatter the wine glass. I rocked my daughter in the living room, staring at the empty corner where the crib once stood. Tears didn't come. Not at first. I was too exhausted to mourn betrayal. Too stitched together to fall apart. Sleep came in fragments, 20 minutes at a time. She cried, and I fed her in the silence he left. My body still healing, my heart unraveling. There were moments I forgot where I was. Then I'd smell the perfume again. Her scent, not mine. Lingering like a bruise. I showered at 3 a.m. with the bathroom door open. Afraid to close it. Afraid to feel sealed in. The water burned, but I needed something real. Blood swirled down the drain, mine. Proof that I had given life. While he poured wine. For someone else. I stood in front of the mirror and studied myself. Pale. Loose skin. Hollowed eyes. This was the body he left behind. Not broken, just altered. I had grown a human. He had grown distant. And only one of us stayed. The house creaked differently now. Even the floors avoided me. I tried to eat. Toast, fruit, something. But every bite stuck like shame in my throat. I was hungry, but not for food. I wanted answers. And he wasn't serving them. I opened the closet again. Not for the heels. But to see if his wedding ring was still there. It wasn't. He had taken it off quietly, like he took off our life. No announcement. Just absence. The diapers were running out. The formula too. I didn't want to ask for help. But pride has no place when your child is hungry. So I called my sister. She heard my voice and simply said, "Come." No questions. Just space. I packed slowly. Diapers, bottles, clothes. Left. Everything else behind. Even my wedding dress, still zipped in a plastic bag under the bed. It used to mean forever. Now it just meant before. Before the silence. Before the heels. I stood at the front door one last time. The house looked cleaner than ever. But sterile. Like a hotel room with no memory. I whispered goodbye to no one. Because no one stayed to hear it. Only echoes. And unanswered questions. Driving away, I didn't look back. My daughter slept in the rearview mirror. Safe. Whole. Unaware. She would not learn her first lessons in a house that chose pink heels. Over her. She would learn resilience. From me. Even if I had to build it broken. At my sister's house, I finally let the tears come. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just quiet sobs into a burp cloth. The kind of crying that leaves no sound, only proof on your collarbone. She held me. We didn't talk about him. I slept 12 hours straight. Woke up aching, but lighter. Grief is strange like that, it carves out space where hope can eventually grow. I made tea and drank it hot. For the first time in weeks, I tasted something. My sister offered to help me file papers. I said not yet. Because I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. And I wasn't ready to sign away a story without reading the fine print. Not yet. But soon. Every day, I wrote down what I remembered. Not to share. Not to post. But to remember myself. Because grief blurs things. And I never wanted to forget that I walked through that house with a newborn, and left with proof that he didn't break me. He erased a version of me I no longer needed. The one who stayed quiet, stayed small, stayed hopeful. Now I was wide awake. And my daughter would never learn to beg for love. Because I stopped doing it first. And that's where my motherhood truly began. It started with the hospital bill. A copy arrived in the mail, addressed to both of us. But the forwarding address on file wasn't mine. It was a loft apartment across town. Not our home. Not anywhere we'd ever lived. I called the number. Listed under billing inquiries. The woman on the phone confirmed the update. He changed it last month. I searched the address online. It was a new building, modern, expensive, with a rooftop gym. The kind of place you move to when you're starting over. Without baggage. Without history. Without a wife and newborn. I wrote it down anyway. For later. Then came the emails. I remembered the shared cloud folder, photos, receipts, home invoices. He forgot to remove my access. Inside, a receipt for a wine subscription. Delivered monthly. Signed, Brielle Thompson. She wasn't just someone. She was already registered. There was a photo in the folder too. Not labeled. Not shared. Just stored. Them at a rooftop bar. His hand on her waist. Her head on his shoulder. Her shirt unbuttoned just enough to prove intimacy. And he was smiling. Fully. I stared at it for hours. Not because I was shocked. But because he looked relieved. Lighter. As if shedding me had been a release. Like I was the weight. Not the woman who carried his child. I clicked deeper. One folder marked, personal. Inside, contract drafts. Apartment lease. Move-in dates. Budgeting spreadsheets. All dated 2 weeks before our daughter was born. He was planning a future. Just not one with us in it. The final proof came from a mutual friend. Claire. Always kind, always neutral. She called to check in, but her voice trembled. She said, I didn't know he moved out. I didn't respond. She continued, he brought someone to the firm's summer party. She was holding his hand. That was all I needed. I forwarded all documents to my lawyer. Every lease. Every email. Every expense. She didn't flinch. Naomi, this isn't abandonment. This is calculated exit. I nodded. I wasn't shocked anymore. I was ready. We filed 2 motions, one for divorce, one for child support. No warning. No phone call. Just legal silence delivered by certified mail. He wanted to vanish quietly. But I wasn't going to disappear with him. Not this time. I changed the locks on our old house. Not because I planned to go back. But because it was still half mine, on paper, if not in memory. Let him know that his clean exit now had complications. Let Brielle open a door she didn't expect to fight for. I didn't want the house. I wanted the truth to echo in it. I contacted the childcare reimbursement office. His company offered family support, but he hadn't registered our daughter. Just himself. He'd removed her name before she even had a voice. But mine was loud now. And legal. And traceable. I wrote him one letter. Not for love. Not for explanation. Just for documentation. You made choices in silence. I answered with proof. This is not revenge. It's record. I didn't sign it. With love. Just with my name. Naomi Ellis. He texted once, can we talk? I didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to talk about. He wanted clean exits. So I gave him clean papers. No begging. No bargaining. Just facts. Every time I held my daughter after that, I held her differently. Not just as her mother, but as the woman who chose clarity over chaos. I didn't just survive what he did. I archived it. Turned it into evidence. Turned myself into proof. I didn't confront him in person. I let the court documents speak. Certified mail delivered truth to his new door. He couldn't ignore legal weight behind his heels. The judge's stamp hit harder than any accusation. He thought absence erased me. I showed him presence backed by proof. The divorce petition was precise, no accusations, just facts. Abandonment. Financial neglect. Breach of parental responsibility. I requested full custody. Child support. And half the assets. Including the old home, if he ever tried to sell it. Silence had consequences. Next, I contacted the daycare. Shared custody never meant absenteeism. I demanded reimbursements for prenatal care and neonatal expenses. The forms were tedious. But each signature, each line, was a spotlight. I wasn't just a mother, I was a claimant. I closed the wine subscription in her name. Brielle would get a thank you invoice for delivery to her business address. I left it open for 2 weeks, just enough for him to see charges. Pink heels were expensive. So were subscriptions. I didn't need drama. I needed annoyance. I texted Claire, our mutual friend, once. Not to cry. But to ask about details. She confessed, he said you were too needy. I replied, proof is never needy. She didn't respond. I didn't need her to. Meanwhile, I kept parenting. Breastfeeding, midnight cleanup, lullabies, doctor visits. I did it in peace, without tension. Without uncertainty. Without someone's footsteps echoing behind me. I reopened the shared cloud one last time. Moved every photo of Brielle into a folder named Forecourt. I left the heels visible, proof of replacement. And I downloaded my daughter's ultrasound scans, placental photos from the OR. My contribution wasn't invisible. Ever again. He filed an answer petition. Said I abandoned the home. Ignored the receipts, the email threads, the lease. His daughter didn't understand abandonment. But the judge did. She saw his narrative collapse under documentation. I walked into mediation with my daughter in a sling. He had scheduled someone else's name on his folder. She wasn't invited. But I was. I showed up. Full. And silent. The mediator asked why. I sought full custody. I didn't need to use harsh tone. I said, because this is her home. Which it was. Her world had always included me. Not him. Not Brielle. I didn't seek revenge. Just equitable balance. He thought silence meant consent. So I spoke to lawyers. Held my baby. Signed papers. Permission denied, final agreement, full custody, financial support, half the home, reimbursement of costs. He'd continue paying, but he wouldn't live there. And any attempt to sell without my consent? Blocked. His clean slate now had constraints. Silent, but binding, the closing happened quietly. No confrontation. Just ink. Just law. He gave up more than I asked. Because real accountability doesn't need spectacle. It just needs structure. I filed for name restoration, Naomi Ellis, not Ellis Miller. I reclaimed my identity. No hyphens, no shadows. Just me. And my daughter. On the final day, I walked past his loft. Saw her reflection in his glass door, pink. Heels stacked by the entrance. I paused, smiled. Took a deep breath. Then kept walking. I moved into a small townhouse, sunlight poured in through the windows. No memory lived in the walls. Every plate, every curtain, every frame, I chose them. There was no ghost of his footsteps. No scent of her perfume. Just peace. And my daughter's. Laughter echoing through clean air. I painted her new nursery yellow. Not pink. Not blue. Just bright. She watched me from her playmat as I hammered stars into the wall. This room would never be emptied behind my back. It would be filled, daily. With presents. The heels? I donated them. All 4 pairs. Not out of rage. Out of refusal. Because nothing they represented belonged to me. I wouldn't carry the symbols of her confidence built from my silence. I took my daughter to the courthouse when my name was restored. Held her on my hip as the clerk stamped the final paper. Back to Naomi Ellis, he said. And I whispered, I never left. She smiled, unaware of the victory. But I felt it. In every cell. The first night in our new home, I cooked dinner. Barefoot. Fed her mashed peas, then danced to the radio. She clapped. I laughed. We didn't need an audience. We were the celebration. The rebirth. No wine glass. No staged photo. I went back to teaching. My students hugged me like I'd never disappeared. They asked about the baby. I showed them her photo taped inside my planner. She saved me, I told one. Then corrected myself. No, we saved each other. I began writing again, essays, poems, one short story. Not about him. About rebuilding. About women who disappear and choose to return whole. Not rescued. Rewritten. On their own terms. My lawyer sent the final update, assets settled, court closed. I replied with 2 words, thank you. No celebration. Post. No vindication thread. Because victory doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sleeps soundly. In a crib that stays. Under a name that never changed. He reached out once. A photo of our daughter, saved from the cloud. The message read, she's beautiful. I didn't respond. She is. But that beauty wasn't his to witness. Not anymore. Claire messaged too. Said she was proud of how I handled everything. I didn't reply. Because applause after silence means nothing. If you weren't listening when it mattered. I had my own reflection now. And that was enough. On my birthday, I bought myself a necklace. A small gold pendant. It read, mine. Not his. Not shared. Just a reminder that this life, this peace, was claimed by me. Without compromise. Without permission. I keep a photo of me and my daughter on the nightstand. Taken the day we moved in. She's wrapped in a yellow blanket. I'm smiling with swollen eyes and a steady hand. No ring on my finger. No shadow behind me. Just light. I don't tell her the story. Not yet. She will grow in warmth, not wounds. But one day, when she asks, I'll say, he left pink heels in a closet where her crib should have been. And I left with her in my arms. And never looked back. Freedom isn't loud. It's in the small things, your name on a lease. Your child's. Breath steady in your arms. No secrets behind a door. No silence used as punishment. Just peace. And proof. He took the nursery. He took the ring. But I took everything that mattered. My name. My daughter. My voice. And this ending, mine.